Hello everyone, I'm Lyric. I love drawing, and I love drawing my Yo.Doggies characters most of all. I get so much joy from them, and last year I realized that other people might enjoy them too, so I started sharing my drawings on social media. I must say, I was delighted that many people found them as adorable as I do. And I've got a lot of questions about where I got my inspirations for them. So I think it's time for me to tell you their story. Yodogies was inspired by 3 puppy dogs my stepmom gave me for my 10th birthday. They are by far the best gifts I have ever received. This is the first time I have ever opened up about my childhood experience and my puppy dogs, because this story brings up some very difficult memories for me. But I want all of you to understand how these experiences shaped me as a person and inspired me to create Yodogies. I was born in a small city called Jingzhou. It's a historical city in the center of China that is surrounded by old city walls. It is said to be the most complete southern ancient wall in the country, which is pretty cool. What I loved about growing up there was the cool breeze on the highest wall tower, the emerald moss on the wall bricks, and the way people leisurely play chess and mahjong under the big old trees. This is my mom, my dad, and me. We were living in this small city and never really traveled. My parents were both office workers and made enough for us to get by, but we couldn't afford any toys for me. We did, however, have a lot of old papers my mom brought home from work. As to say, necessity is the mother of invention. So as soon as I mastered using scissors and glue, I cut up the papers and made flowers, door houses, and all kinds of animals. Looking back, creating my own world with paper and bringing my imagination to life was both cathartic and inspiring. And it really was the beginning of my journey as an artist. Although we didn't have much, I had my art supplies and life was pretty good. Unfortunately though, when I was 7 years old, there was a recession and countless people across the country were laid off. And sadly, my mom was one of them. It was a very dark period. For about a year, my mom locked herself in her room, studying night and day to get additional qualifications that could help her find a work in a very difficult job market. My dad was under tremendous pressure to support the family. He became increasingly irritable and he started verbally abusing my mom. Their frequent arguments really took an emotional toll on me. It was devastating and I cried a lot. One day after school, I returned home to find my parents fighting again. My dad got so furious that he suddenly grabbed my mom's notebook off her desk and frantically tore it into pieces and then threw everything out of the window. I still remember the pieces falling through the air and scattering across the courtyard. To say that my mom was heartbroken would be an understatement. I will never forget how she gathered up the scraps of the paper in the courtyard and spent all night painstakingly gluing her notebook back together in complete silence. I was young, but I realized that, like her notebook, the scars in her heart would never fully heal. Not long after that, my mom left home. I thought she was just taking me to school, but on the way, she stopped at the bus stop and told me she was leaving. I was stunned. She was sobbing, and she told me again and again how much she loved me. I begged her to take me with her, but she said that she couldn't because she had almost no money. I had never seen my mom cry that hard, and I cried too. That kind of thing is really tough when you were only 7 years old. Fortunately for me, my dad was a very loving father. Although he had a bad temper and I was really afraid of him sometimes, He did become more patient over time and began spending more time with me. There was a small park nestled along the east side of the walls, and my father and I used to go for a walk there after dinner. It was also where I first met Hua Hua. Hua Hua was a white and brown cavapoo. To most people, she probably wasn't that cute, but to me, she was the most adorable puppy I had ever seen. I loved how friendly she was and the way she seemed to smile at me. I had never seen anything more hilarious than her big ears flapping in the wind as she ran through the park. When I heard that her family was going to give her away, I begged and begged my dad to let me adopt her. I was a quiet girl who never asked for anything, and my dad finally said yes. Hua Hua brought me so much happiness. She was such a good puppy, and when I was studying, she would quiet and nuzzle up against me. When I took her for a walk, oh boy, she was so happy as she ran like a wind. Because of her, I made a lot of friends who loved the dogs as well. Life with my best friend Hua Hua was wonderful, but sadly, it didn't last long. One day, I woke up and I couldn't find her anywhere. I realized that she was missing. In a panic, I told my dad I was going out to find her, and I was shocked when he told me that he had sent her to another family so that I could focus on my studies. He said, if I did well on my final exams, Hua Hua could come home. As you may know, academic competitions in China is really fierce, and students have to study really hard to get into good school. I understood where my dad was coming from, but mostly I just missed my best friend. I was determined to get her back, so I studied as hard as I could. And all my hard work paid off. I aced my final exams. I was overjoyed that I would soon be able to hug Hua Hua again. Grinning from ear to ear, I showed my dad my great exam scores and asked when we could go pick up Hua Hua. And that's when he told me that wouldn't be possible because Hua Hua had run away from the other family. I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. The feeling was like when my mom left me. I lost another beloved one in my life. I kept dreaming that one day, Hua Hua would suddenly appear. I would shout her name and she would come running. It never happened. For a long time after that, I felt so insecure and desperate that I didn't want to form any close relationship with other people, including my dad. I used to think things wouldn't get better anymore, until one day I met a friend of my dad, and she was the one that changed this story. I didn't know it at the time, but she would soon become my stepmom. She was a super gentle, patient, and caring person. The first day I met her, she bought me a new dress and took me to an amusement park. It was a great day. And that evening, sitting on the bench in the park, I told her about Hua Hua. She promised me that she would find me a puppy like Hua Hua who would be with me forever. And 2 months later, on my 10th birthday, she gave me Harley. I was amazed that she had found such an adorable puppy dog. It was so soft and beautiful, and it had white and brown fur just like Hua Hua. When you hold it in your arms, it felt like it's smiling at you and hugging you back. I would just stare at it for hours, smiling and hugging it. I felt my heart starting to thaw. I named it Harley since in Chinese, Ha means happy and smiley. saying how much I loved Holly, my stepmom gave me 2 more puppy dolls. Julie is a bit smaller than Holly, and Millie is a bit smaller than Julie. My stepmom gave me more wonderful puppy dolls after that, but Harley, Julie, and Millie will always have a very special place in my heart. I was thrilled when she and my dad got married and she officially became my stepmom. She and I became very close, and I was happier than I had been in a long time. She was incredibly nurturing and supportive, and I was finally able to believe again that someone I loved would always be there for me, and I started calling her Mom. My mom ran her own fashion retail business, and her business grew until we no longer had to worry about money. At that point, she started thinking about how to help me study abroad, and she's the reason I was able to come to the US for school. I was really looking forward to study abroad, but I was a little nervous since it would be my first time so far away from home, and I worried that I would feel isolated and lonely. When I was packing for the big move, my mom started packing my beloved puppy dolls and noticed that they need some love and attention since they were old and a bit worn out. I vividly remember her sitting on the couch, patiently mending them with needles and thread. It made me feel so warm and secure. In that moment, I realized that even though our past may take us away from those we love, the love you share and the memories you have made together last forever. Harley and her sisters have always been there for me over the past years I have lived in the US, offering me so much comfort and joy. When I hug them, I'm home. Inspired by this love, I wanted to share them with others by drawing them, and that's how Yo.Doggies began. Much to my surprise, I received a lot of positive feedback from people who said my characters brightened their day. Reading their heartfelt messages, I felt so fortunate to be able to share the special happiness I have received. I truly hope that Harley, Julie, and Millie will continue to give people love and joy. That's the story. Thanks for listening.